everyone. Welcome to Leaders of Tomorrow, India's largest platform for entrepreneurs. I'm Sunanda Jayaseelan. We're bringing you a 12-part special series that we're calling the Leaders of Tomorrow Town Hall. Essentially, we're traveling to 12 cities across the country, meeting face-to-face with entrepreneurs in every city that we're going to and doing conversations of topics that are of the most relevance to you. Tonight, we'll bring you a slice of a panel that I did in Chandigarh earlier, talking about the resurgence of entrepreneurship and crisis management for small businesses. Take a listen.
Talking about ease of doing business, and it's quite a mixed bag, from everything that this expert panel has been saying when it comes to doing business here in Chandigarh. But what perhaps in your mind is a single contributing factor? When you look at the ease of doing business, Chandigarh ranks pretty much at the bottom. It's 29th when it comes to ease of doing business. How is that perhaps going to change? What would you like to see changing? Big picture question, but maybe to you first, Mr. Atre.
It's unfair to ask me that because I've been part of it, but I think these are actually rankings are also based on surveys. They're based on the interactions. So I wouldn't be surprised if Chandigarh jumps from 29 to 14 next year. These are surveys which are they're based on how you respond, how much information you give. Sure. Chandigarh is probably one of the best cities and union territories in India. There's no doubt about it. A little bit of tweaking is required. A little bit of intent is required, and also humankind needs to meet and talk and get it. I don't think it's very difficult to improve ease of doing business, but what I'd like to say is that the common person visiting the window of a government office needs to have service delivery mechanisms in place. He wants and she wants to save time over there. That's what needs to be done.
Do you want to respond to that?
Yeah, I fully endorse what Mr. Atre is telling us. Our entrepreneur, he doesn't have time to visit those government offices. He has the idea, he wants to do something for the country, for himself. So that ease of doing business, when I say from Chandigarh perspective, is a single window system for every service he requires. And that with digitization, I would rather see that could come to his office rather than he visiting those offices. So that would be my motto from this thing.
Okay. This is also, since we have the three largest industry bodies represented here on the stage, I want to talk about a survey done by FICCI, but just draw parallels from research and a report that they've put out, that 58% of all the companies surveyed have reported an impact due to statewide lockdowns, including in Chandigarh, and a majority of all companies surveyed have reported that they expect an impact of over 10% on their business, on their revenues going forward. What are your member companies telling you, gentlemen? Also, how have you, as industry bodies, how are you working closely with your member companies to ensure that any examples you could give also as the leaders of these industry associations, how have you been working closely perhaps with your member companies to ensure that perhaps the worst of this pandemic is not being felt by these small businesses? Could I come to you first?
Actually, degree varies sector to sector. Like, for example, if we say pharma, maybe IT, banking, so they have bounced back, rather with a great thrust, more than 10%, I would say. But then something like hotel, restaurants, they have to be innovative now. They have to rework their goals. So it'll take some time for them also. I'm sure the spirit is there. They want to come back, bounce back very fast and very soon. So some of the sector already 20-30%. Like tractor industry, during the lockdown period, you will be surprised, they grew 18 to 20%. We have a lot of ancillary units here for the tractors and automobile. During the pandemic last year, there were 15-20% growth. Sure. So sector to sector it varies. Pharma is doing very well.
What has CI been doing? Could you talk about any hand-holding you're doing for your member companies?
Yeah, for the member companies, we have talked to the CITCO. We are upgrading the Industrial Development Center at CITCO to make it a center of excellence. It would really help the MSME to innovate, what Mr. Atis is telling, to innovate their products for a global market. The main thing I would rather say is go for the global supply chain. When I talk to the MSME or the member company in Chandigarh, we always tell them not look for the domestic product, go for the global supply chain, go for the global market, and then that niche market will be yours, and then you will grow. So that is the only thing we can grow from the pandemic.
Okay.
Yeah. So ASSOCHAM also has been holding a series of meetings with members, and ever since I took over this role in an advisory capacity, I was pleasantly surprised. The level of engagement, the micro level, the macro level, the top level with the government. So I think a lot of communication has taken place in all industrial bodies. And I think nobody is unaware of what to do. Everybody knows what to do now, but it is that some sectors like tourism have been badly impacted. Others may not have been so badly impacted. People need to get out of that lethargy and make that innovative mark now. And I don't think the chambers are lacking or the industrial associations are lacking in effort. I think they're doing their best.
Okay. On that note, let me take closing comments. What have been your biggest learnings during this pandemic as leaders of these large organizations and as individuals? And on that note, what would you like to leave our audience with today? I'll come to you first, Mr. Atre.
Yeah, I think I'd like to leave the audience and the viewers with thoughts that are forward-looking. So we cannot be locked in the past. We cannot be crying that why did this pandemic happen, what happened. So if I have energy enough and I am on my feet, I should have the ideas that will help me in future. I should have the communication skills to reach out to whoever I have to reach out to. People are available. There's not a dearth of knowledge, know-how. If somebody in Finland is doing better than me in my sector, I should learn from him or her. I don't have, if somebody in Chennai is doing better, I learn from him or her. So my thing is that communicate, be aware, and encourage your employees. A lot of problems are rising from mental health also, in the industry as well. The students, the families, etc. So I've been working a lot personally in that area. I think that is an area also which we need to do. The same unit can do wonders if their mental health is better, motivation levels are better. Sure. So work on that.
Sure.
From my perspective, we are always saying to our member companies, first of all, to take care of your cash flows. Secondly, to innovate, always to innovate, to nurture the ideas within your organization for your employees and for the benefit of your industry as well. And thirdly, and the foremost, to engage your member companies along with your employees. Because unless until your HR is strong enough to beat this pandemic, nothing else can be. That is my motto.
In many ways, the pandemic has been a blessing in disguise, I would say. Because a lot of introspection you could do, and we had a lot of virtual meetings. To tell you frankly, we go for international fairs, trade fairs. We could do few, we can do much more by sitting right here internationally on the virtual platforms. Yes. Which can encourage exports, like you said. We don't know either Belgium and Belfast, what's the difference between those. But without going and visiting there, we can learn a lot of that. International trade can flourish, number one. Number two, lot of introspection. Now, you can have different goals, what needs to be done, how can you expand. So it's taught us so many things. I would say it was a blessing in disguise, the pandemic.
Absolutely. And that is the hope looking forward that we are definitely looking at a resurgence for all of you who've joined us today. Please give us a warm round of applause to our panelists. Thank you so much for your time.
I'm going to take a quick break. We're back in just a moment. Welcome back with us here in Leaders of Tomorrow Town Hall. Tonight, we're bringing you a slice of a panel discussion that I did earlier in Chandigarh.
So this is a segment that we call Wealth First because we put you first when it comes to your wealth. Thank you so much, Manikaran, for taking the time to and for agreeing to join us here. Before we actually start taking questions, we have one question already. I'm sure there are more questions. Would you like to introduce yourself? How did you get started on this journey of personal finance? What do you do? What your interest areas are? Could you introduce yourself to the audience, please?
Well, it's a 17 years long journey, so I guess 15 minutes is not enough for me. But still, let me bring this long story short. So I started my career in 2003 with ICICI Bank. I joined as an officer in the branch banking section. But that is the time when the stock market was around starting with the boom. So every financial institution entered into this insurance, mutual fund, and all the investment product selling. So I was a part of banking, so I also had to get into all these things and learned about all these things. But 2003, 4, 5, 6, how many years you can do this? So by 2006, I left the banking after learning all this thing and understanding and learning that there should be a particular process with which one should make the money invest and make the money grow. Buying product is not the solution for every financial issue. So in 2006, I enrolled into a specific course. It's a certified financial planner. So it is provided by FPSP US at that point in time. So now it is available in India also. But that again was the time when the market was booming and everybody was interested in returns. So you make investment in any product and get the money double in 1 year or 2 years. So 2006, I could not follow the financial planning principles and could not complete that. It's only in 2008 when market actually fell, when everybody learned that this is not the right way to do all the investments and do the financial planning. So that is the time when I completed this CFP thing and started with the financial planning journey. And in 2013, SEBI recognized this particular profession and put the regulation and compliance issues on the investment advisory under the SEBI Investment Advisor Rules 2013. So now the profession is regulated under SEBI and advices are regulated. So we can't just say कि इसमें investment करो, उसमें investment करो. There has to be a particular process behind it. There has to be particular reasoning behind it. There is a compliance which is being followed. Right now, there are only 1,400 SEBI registered investment advisors in India, pan-India, even after being a presence of 8 years because of the high compliance. So you may find around 50,000 mutual fund agents are there, around 1 lakh plus insurance agents are there, but there are hardly SEBI registered investment advisors available. So I believe I am the only one in whole Punjab which is registered with SEBI. So now the profession. So
it's our pleasure then to have you join us, especially given that you are an entrepreneur yourself. So before we come to, and I'll ask you to repeat your question, sir, for Manikaran. But before we come to that, your company is called Good Money.
That's right.
What is good money?
See, good money is about being good with money. It's as simple as that. So once you are good with money, money behaves the same way with you. So you have to save it wisely, you have to invest it wisely, you have to spend it wisely. So once you are wise with the money, money definitely reciprocates in the same manner.
So could I request you to repeat your question?
Some of the InvestSmart or M1 exchange, they are charging more interest, 10.5%. But in another case, they are charging 7.5%. Why this is happening?
So your question is regarding bill discounting.
Regarding bill discounting,
right.
Rate of interest for bill discounting under InvestSmart or M1 exchange.
So
more companies are there.
Rate of interest, actually, it's a bank's point of view, how they are viewing it, what kind of risk they are viewing it in this bill discounting thing. And definitely you have spoken about the credit rating part. So credit rating is the most important thing in any kind of financing. So one has to have a good credit rating to have a good rate of interest in any loan. So even if bill discounting it's come under high risk segment because they are just invoicing, they are just funding that, discounting the bill for you. The credibility of the borrower needs to be definitely checked and then only the rate of interest to be decided.
Yes, could we have a mic here please to this gentleman?
Good evening, I am Dr. G.S. Singh, retired government servant. Sir, since you are dealing with personal finance,
yes, sir.
My question is related to asset allocation.
Sure.
See, all personal advisor advise asset allocation is very important in investment. They say 60, 20, 20, or like that, depend upon the age and risk appetite. It's like 60 equity, 20 gold, 20 debt, commonly. But my question is this: that debt is okay, but gold as an investment, what are your opinion?
Gold as an investment?
Yes.
Okay.
So first of all, actually, if you could talk about asset allocation, the point that he made, is there a thumb rule that you want to give our entrepreneurs today about what should, at different stages of your life, be your asset allocation, and then speak on gold?
Okay. So there are actually four investment asset classes where one can invest: equity, debt, gold, and real estate. So one has to allocate the money in different, only these four asset classes. So there is no thumb rule as far as the asset allocation is concerned. It all depends on the risk tolerance of the person. See, there are three things: risk tolerance, risk capacity, and risk required. So your asset allocation is based on all these three things. So risk tolerance could be that you can't accept volatility up to this particular stage. Right? If your investment portfolio falls more than 20%, it will start making you uncomfortable. So that means we need to figure out that what asset allocation, what equity portfolio to be there in your investments. That in the past it has not fallen more than 20% for you. We can't predict the future, right? So that way the equity portion gets decided in equity and debt. Gold is a kind of asset class which performs only in the crisis. So crisis can come regularly or can come after a particular boom and depression kind of. It also works in the cyclical part. So one should not, if he is into the growing stage, accumulation stage, so one should not have more than 5% of allocation into gold.
Sure. Unfortunately, we're running out of time on this segment, but I have a few questions that I definitely want to pick your brains on. You were using the word credit. You were talking about credit scores. So I first want to talk about credit cards. For the entrepreneurs in today's audience, how should one be approaching using credit cards, whether it is for your business expenses, whether it's for your personal expenses? What is your general approach to credit cards?
See, frankly, the credit card provides you easy money. So normally one gets move away from the reality. I believe, as Mr. Manish said, that every business has to have an approach of managing the cash flows. Good cash flow management should be there. The same thing works in the personal finances also. Right? If you can control that ease, the urge of using cards, right, then it would definitely be good for your business and personal management. Because cards earn from interest, right? It's not for your, specifically you will get the ease of money, but also banks earn only from the interest. Banks earn from your mistakes. So you have to ensure that you are not going to, you have to pay it on regular basis. You should not use it so regularly that you make mistakes, make mistakes of not paying it on time. These no-cost EMIs, cashbacks, all these are attractive features, but it will definitely keep you away from the reality, and you tend to overspend on these cards. So as long as you have control on your cash flow management, so you may use it. It's not, there's no harm in that. Sure. But don't go overboard on that.
Okay. Even as banks like IDFC, for instance, offer you interest on a monthly basis, not just a quarterly basis, my question is separation of business and personal expenses and having separate, bank accounts perhaps. And how do you ensure that as an entrepreneur you're maintaining that separation?
Okay, see, yes, this is a very important thing, because in business finance, we have seen that people generally mix personal finances into business. So pay yourself salary. This is the main thing, especially in the proprietorship business. I have seen that people mix up both the personal and business finances. So once you start paying yourself salary, that will definitely demarcate between the personal and the business finance, and you make note of your expenses, you make a note of your requirement of savings, you make a note of your insurance premiums. All the personal finances need to be funded from your salary, not from the business account.
Sure. My last question, and since you were saying credit score, I wanted to talk about availing loans. Whatever loan it is, whether it's a housing loan, whether it's a loan for your business, etc. One is, of course, repayment of those loans, and your advice on, say you come into a bulk sum of money, should you be looking at part payment of these loans first? Should you be investing it somewhere else? and your advice for entrepreneurs when it comes to just taking loans and having that responsibility really when availing of these loans.
Yeah, responsibility is the right word, I would say. So once you take a loan, it's a liability on you, so you have to be responsible towards it. You are responsible towards your money because money is going to secure you and make you safe over a longer period of time. Money is there for you every time. So you need to keep it, keep investing it well and be good with it, I would say. So loans definitely are one of the requirements in any business. Definitely one cannot avoid loan in many manufacturing units, I believe. In service sector, one may avoid some loans. On personal side, we don't recommend people getting high on loans because again, you have to, it will create an unnecessary outflow on your business, on your personal side. So you have less of surplus to invest for your long-term goals. Whenever there is a concept of or question of coming housing loan that people are generally interested in, this is the major loan generally people take. So I always say that you have to fund the housing loan or the house purchase goal with 50% of your own savings and take only 50% of loan, rather than going for 80% of the funding which banks may provide. Repayment of loan, again, it has two aspects to it. One is financial and other is the emotional. Emotional side says that why to keep liability on our shoulders, just repay it immediately, and financial side says that maybe interest rates are low and we are getting tax benefit on it, why not to continue with it, right? So you have to do some mathematics, some planning around it, that whether this repayment will make any difference in your personal financial management, will it help in achieving some goals, or so as far as the loan taking is concerned, we have a formula of 30-30-30-10, where this is for the general public, where we don't do any kind of planning part or something like that. So 30 is your housing expenses, 30 is your EMIs, 30 is your investment part, and 10 goes to the insurances. So if there is no, no formula or no planning you are doing, so this is the formula which you should use. And if you don't have any EMIs, that EMI can be replaced with the rent part, or EMIs can be divided into home expenses and the investments.
All right. Thank you very much for your time here, joining us at the Leaders of Tomorrow Town Hall, Manikiran.
Thank you so much.
Thank you once again.
All right, that's all the time we have for this panel. Do stay tuned. There's much more coming up. If you want to know where we're headed to next, that information is on our website. Do stay tuned for that. That is a wrap. Thanks for watching. Have a good night.